Good evening, everyone. This is Coach Tonya C. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Give us just a few moments. I just want to give a few people an opportunity to join in this evening. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. A Monday evening, I get it. Coming back to work, trying to get dinner done, but you're going to have an enjoyable evening here for about 60 minutes. So we won't take too long, just to impart a little bit of information, a little knowledge, and spark some thinking about our topic this evening. In the meantime, if you can just put in the chat or under comment where you're viewing us from this evening, that would be awesome. So our title this evening is Burnout Recovery and Resilience meets Identity Alignment and Values-Driven Living. That's a mouthful. Burnout Recovery and Resilience, that's the my part. So we came up with that title because burnout is one of my specialties, and Coach Rogjett really believes in identity alignment and being authentic, being your authentic self to who you are. And so we decided that we were going to combine those two, and hopefully we'll be able to spark some conversation this evening, inspire you, some of you all, to think a little deeper, and maybe even share this with those that you may feel may not be living their authentic life. So in the meantime, I'll go ahead and introduce myself for those of you that don't know. My name is Dr. Tonya. I am a registered nurse and have been for a few decades. And I recently got my doctorate of nursing practice. And my dissertation actually was on burnout. I learned a lot about burnout. And I think it's something that we don't recognize enough. So I really wanted to be able to share that information with everyone to give you an opportunity to kind of determine where you are. Now, Coach Rogjett, can you hear me? Let's see if we can get her back connected so that she can join in and talk a little bit about the identity alignment and making sure that people are really authentic and true to themselves. Let's see. There you are.
Woo, that was a lot happening.
Fabulous. Okay,
My
good,
apologies. There
good.
we go.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Technology is crazy and we just have to
Yes,
roll with the punches.
absolutely.
So I don't know if you could hear me. I kind of introduced myself a little bit.
Okay.
So I want to throw it over to you for you to introduce yourself. I gave everyone our title, Burnout Recovery and Resilience Meets
Perfect.
Identity Alignment and Values-Driven Living. And so if you'll go ahead and introduce yourself and then we can jump right in.
Okay, sounds good. My name is Rogjett Peterson. I am a clinical therapist by way of social work. I received an MSW from the University of Michigan in 2022. I am in private practice right now, and I'm a transformed mindset coach. I also have another master's degree that I got back in 2010, and that was in HR management. So it's a nice little blend that I've got going on. Undergrad with psychology some years back. And so I've had the opportunity to work across several different disciplines, but right now we're in here in terms of mental health and coaching.
I'll tell you my love for mental health, if you will. I spoke to my nursing side, but I really feel like I think I always say when I grow up, I want to be a therapist. But I have been doing mentoring and coaching for many years without having that mental health LCSW or
Mm-hmm.
LPC behind my name. But I feel like I've been called to do that. I'm a director of nursing of a nursing school. So I have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
students that have issues, problems, or whatever moniker you want to put on it that I work with on a daily basis. So mental health and helping people to regain their confidence, to really understand what their goals are in life and how to achieve their goals are very much in alignment with what you're talking about doing. So I think we're well suited this evening. So I'm super excited about having the opportunity to merge these two topics together.
Yes.
So with that, let me talk just a little bit about burnout because I think our audience, some background will really help them to follow us through our discussion for the ebb and flow that I know is going to occur. And so
Mm-hmm.
that they can understand what exactly we are attempting to do in helping individuals to reconnect with their authentic selves and not allowing other people or other situations to put them in a position where they can't do so.
Mm-hmm.
So burnout has been around for a long, long time, but I will tell you, I describe burnout as stress on steroids. Now, we are all stressed. Look, we were stressed trying to get on here this evening, but stress
Mm-hmm.
is typically easily resolved. I'm up, you're up, we're good to
Mm-hmm.
go. So that stress now is starting to dissipate. What happens with burnout is that short term stress can become long term stress over many months and even years. And
Mm-hmm.
that can lead to people really feeling burnout. It is typically associated with the work environment, but we definitely know that whatever happens at work transcends and transitions into our personal lives, into our family, how we care for our families, how we align with enjoyment. So, burnout is a real thing. I want to give you just three hallmark signs of burnout: exhaustion. People that are, I mean, they just cannot, they feel like they can't go another day. And folks will be like, oh, well, I'm going to bed at night and I think I'm sleeping, but I still wake up exhausted and I really dread getting out of the bed to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing to start thinking, am I having a problem here? The second hallmark sign is cynicism, basically being disenfranchised with your work environment, with people that you work with. You start to feel like I don't belong. You disassociate yourself with your work environment. It's almost like you're watching things occur to you, around you, and you're not even engaged. You're not connected. And then the third is lack of productivity. Now, you may feel closed off. You may feel like you don't even know what's happening, that you are not achieving your personal and professional goals because of the things that have created the burnout. Again, work, it could be you are not aligned appropriately. And so you're trying to make the best of a bad
Mm-hmm.
situation. And that's difficult, very difficult, because you can't find pleasure any place when you are in the wrong place and at the wrong time. So those are just a few ways to look at what burnout really is. And as we continue through the evening, we'll talk a little bit more about how you can recognize or maybe even do a self-assessment to determine, are you at a stage of burnout? Burnout
Mm-hmm.
isn't just all or nothing. You kind of creep up on it slowly, mostly slowly, and then wham, there you are. So tell us about the identity alignment that we're going to be talking about this evening.
First of all, thank you for giving us a working definition and some characteristics of burnout. I know that a lot of people don't always understand what burnout is. And so I love that you said, no, it's real, because it
Yeah,
actually is
it
real.
is.
And there are some very solid characteristics.
Mhm.
In terms of identity alignment, one of the things that I really wanted to kind of touch on today is how burnout literally can come from being misaligned in terms of what you are experiencing from an identity aspect. What do I mean by that? Because obviously, identity is a loaded word, and we have so many different sort of intersecting identities, right? And so, what happens sometimes is that burnout can come because we might be in internal conflict with our values. And so, as you were kind of mentioning earlier, let's say I've gone, and in fact, I had this client. So let's talk about
Okay.
this. This was somebody who I grew up with. This was someone who got the degrees, got this incredible job, high level, working corporate, married, children, did all of the things. I had this young lady in one of my workshops, and one of the things that she was speaking about was the fact that, like, okay, I've done all of the things, but I really kind of don't know who I am now, right? And so she
Mm,
was feeling the sense of almost like loss, like a grieving, and not
right.
feeling very aligned with who she was at this point, because in her mind, she was living someone else's script for a very, very
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
the thing about identity is that when we come into this world, we are God's identity. Like, He's given us an identity, but
Yes.
then we pick up scripts along the way. As we are growing, as we are learning, of course, we're forming identity in early years. But if we are not tapped into sort of those core giftings, if we are not cultivating those or being cultivated in those, allowing a freedom of expression or exploratory freedom to get there, then oftentimes what happens is we just follow someone else's script. Oh, this is what I think you should do. This is how I think you should live. This is the school I think you should go to.
Right.
And so you follow the script. And obviously, a lot of us do that, and we need to because we're children growing into this space.
Right.
And so that's sort of dictated for most of us. I do know people who do kind of allow their children to kind of be a little more exploratory in that way. But essentially, we're taking on a script. When we are in our teen years, we are trying to establish identity. Who am I for real? And what I've learned over the years, especially I would say in my late 20s, is when I first took my first values assessment. I was actually facilitating a group through career transition. I used to work for a global company who was dealing with Fortune 500 companies. I was one of the youngest people staffed. I was dealing with people who were going through job loss, and specifically in 2008, 2009, right?
Yeah.
And I was facilitating them through career transition workshops, but values assessments. And it was really my first time seeing all these different categories and realizing at that point that if we can identify our core values and then rank them in the order of highest priority, maybe pull out the top 3, top 4, and see how it can align to where we want to end up. So in other words, asking a couple of questions. Who am I? What's important to me? Who is important to me? Because that's going to give a lot of information about how you're going to drive in the direction of your values. I think that in terms of people maneuvering through their career life or their school life, whatever it is, I don't see this enough in practice. It's taking a pause to be self-reflective, but some of us don't pause long enough because we get on autopilot, right?
Yes. The fact, I think you mentioned that when you did that workshop in your 20s or so, you were in your mid 20s. It made me think of the fact, as you were characterizing, that as parents, we want to prepare our children for that career. It could be something that they may be interested in or something that we see them that they would be good at. But interestingly enough, that prefrontal cortex, where they do those executive decisions, is not fully developed until they're about 25, 26 years old.
Correct.
And so here we are as parents, collectively, globally, trying to help these young people, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, think about what do you want to be when you grow up. And then we are supporting them and we're pushing them to college or trade school or whatever, when the fact of the matter is they haven't even developed fully enough yet to know really what they want to be. And so when you first started talking about it, it made me think some years ago where we had all of these lawyers, bankers, financiers that had done exactly what we're discussing. They had gone to college, 4-year degrees, master's degrees, working on Wall Street or various places around the country. And then all of a sudden, these people stopped doing that. And now
Absolutely.
they're ice cream shops. They're working on farms with animals. That's who they truly were. That was their authentic self. That was the identity that nobody asked them ever where they could see themselves or what they liked doing, what would they enjoy doing. They did what somebody told them to do. And so
Exactly.
here, some of them were maybe 35, 40 years old saying, you know what, I've had enough of trying to defend this person in court. I want to be true to myself. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy my life. And so that is a perfect example of what you characterize there, I think, in making sure that we are being true to ourselves. We're being
Yes.
true to our values. And I would venture to say that some of those in that original career felt burnt out. They felt like they couldn't do it anymore until they decided I need to do something different. What would that look like, do you think, at this point? If you were working with a client now, and you may be, what would that look like for someone that you felt like was misaligned? How would you guide them?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And it does come up quite a bit. And so, the first step for me is actually walking them through a values assessment. As I mentioned, it's okay. What are the things that you like? Again, asking these two questions, which I ask literally every single one of my clients: who is important to you? What is important to you? That's the first step, and seeing how they answer that. Secondly, it's laying out a values assessment. There's about 10 to 12 different categories where they'll go and look at the different categories and be able to rank what's the most important to them. And so once they've done that and they get a real good idea of what is important to them reflected through the assessment, then it's introspective. The life that I'm living right now, does this align to these top 3 values, these top
Right.
4 values? And if it doesn't, then what committed action do I need to take so that it can align? Because that alignment is going to yield your most fulfilled and meaningful life.
Absolutely.
When you're outside of alignment, again, that burnout is right outside the door, especially if it's been something you've just kind of been in autopilot with. If you started a position, let's say a single parent, age 21, 22, they've had to make maybe a lot of sacrifices. And so now it's, okay, I need to focus on me. I deal with this so often, whether it is a single parent or someone who has gone through a divorce, maybe
Okay.
they're widowed, maybe they're newly married. Like, I've had all of these types of clients. And that first step is, what is your most fulfilled and meaningful life? What would that look like? And then how do we get there? By taking committed action aligned to the values that you've identified.
And see, I can see where, as you mentioned, someone who's divorced or maybe a widow or widower, how their identity may have been tied up with their partners, may have been the mother, the
Absolutely.
wife, the parent. When that piece of them is no longer there, it gives them an opportunity to truly reflect on who they are. I have a very good friend who lost her husband 5 years ago. She's become a friend in the last couple of years, and we were talking about his illness and how she worked through that. She was a caregiver for
Yeah.
2 years for him, being the parent to her adult children. And then when he passed, it was like she lost a sense of self, right? She lost they were married close to 40 years. So when you have that partnership for so long, it's intermingled. Our identities are really intermingled. And then when
Yes.
that connection is broken, um, we don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're still thinking I'm so and so's wife or I'm so and so's mother, but the reality is so and so now has a wife of his own, the child, and my spouse is no longer here. Who am I? What value-based decisions do you think keep us grounded and authentic when things like that occur?
Ask it one more time.
What values-based decisions can
Mhm.
keep people grounded in in those situations and authentic when those things happen?
I think, at the end of the day, it's going back to what is most important. It's
Mm,
weighing that out. It's very difficult when you have become so fused with an identity that is not yours.
mhm.
And so coming back to that grounding is first giving yourself some compassion, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the first step, I would say, is the self-compassion piece of, it's okay that I'm kind of rocked a little bit here,
Right,
And so it's
right.
like, all right, what do I need to do? Let me pause, let me reassess, let me focus on self-care, let me reach out to some people, let's connect, have some conversations. So when we think about grounding, it's, how can I come back to the present? And so I'm a big mindfulness girl. It's, hey, let's get all the senses engaged in the right
Right.
moment so that I can not be so activated or hyper vigilant. Because what happens in a situation like that, I believe, is that we do go into fight or flight mode. And so in
Yeah,
order for
true.
us to not just exist in that space, it's
Hmm.
bringing it back to, okay, let me get my senses involved. What is important to me? What does it cost me to not be aligned with what is important and who is important in my life? What's the cost?
Oh,
How
wow, that's
expensive is
good.
it?
What has it cost me?
Mhm.
to not be aligned with my authentic self?
Yes.
Wow. That's a really powerful question. A couple
Mhm.
of our viewers said sometimes being a nurse takes over your identity and you don't know of anything
Mm,
else when it
mm,
comes to your identity. And
mhm,
in that sense, I'm a nurse, so obviously you take on other people's issues, problems, because we're in that healing state.
mhm,
And so we are, like you said, hyper vigilant on assisting that individual to return to a state of healthy and well-being, that
mhm,
we can absolutely lose ourselves, because we're so intertwined in taking care of
mhm.
others. And I
Yes.
think that happened with my friend because she, again, was a nurse on her own. And then she became a nurse first person for her
Mm,
husband. And now that he's gone, she is trying to
mhm,
determine, as many nurses are, when their careers are
mhm,
now shaken for some reason. Where do I go from here? Interestingly enough, I had a student in my office today with her grandmother. They
mm,
came in and they sat down and wanted to talk. I didn't really know I didn't even know who the grandmother was until was like, well, and who are you?
mhm,
The granddaughter's pregnant, um, talking about the baby's coming soon. What is she going to do with school, et cetera, et cetera. And grandma, unbeknownst to me, a nurse of 52 years.
mm.
I want to say she said she was 74.
Wow.
Didn't look like she was 74 at all. Um, and she says, well, I'm waiting for her to have her baby so I can now stay home. She's still working. I can
Mm.
stay home and babysit and let her become the
Wow.
nurse and go out and take care of others.
Mm,
So interestingly enough, her identity for 52 years, this particular individual, is in caring for others. And now
mhm.
she will again extend that to
Right.
care for her great grandchild
Mhm.
so that her grandchild can go and hopefully live the life that she's supposed to live and that she feels is her true identity. Very interesting.
I actually had a very similar conversation today earlier,
Okay.
where we were talking about this identity fusion, I guess we'll call it,
Okay. Yeah.
right? This was someone who high level academic and pretty much is very fused with that academic identity.
Okay.
To the point, though, and I think this is the most important part, when we talk about how expensive or what that cost is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's to the point where the other identities that she has are not sort of equal on the playing field, if that makes sense. So it's almost a neglect that's happening to the other identities that are equally important. And so the visual, I'm a very visual person. So as we were
Hmm.
speaking, I was seeing some things.
I was going to ask you, tell
Um,
me what are these? I'm interested to know what some of these other identities are.
so all of us have different intersecting identities, right? What I'm thinking about is more of not needing to be the performer all the
Okay.
time, not always being on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because in that academic space, it's let me be on.
Yes.
And so this was now a situation where they were in an environment where they didn't need to be as academic. The challenge was feeling that they need to rehearse so much going into this very casual environment
Mm.
and feeling anxiety about it. And so, again, when there is some type of symptomatology that's happening that is impacting your daily livelihood or your daily functioning, now we have to reevaluate what might be going on. So you've got the people pleaser, the performer, the achiever. We,
Yes.
we fuse with these identities, and I've come up with about 8 of them. These are some that we'll talk about in my workshop if anybody joins. What was really interesting in the visual that I got was it's like having a puzzle. Most puzzles have the picture on them. And if I'm putting together, let's say, a 500-piece puzzle,
Hmm.
and all of a sudden I get near the end and I'm missing 2 or 3 pieces, well, that impacts the entire picture,
It does.
right? But if I have all the individual pieces, all those individual pieces, here's the metaphor, is that they all make the whole person up. So all the identities are like the pieces.
Yes.
When I see a puzzle, it's very rare that I see a puzzle that is disproportionate. And what I
Okay.
mean by that is when the pieces are cut out they're relatively the same size.
Yeah.
And so what I was thinking about when things are misaligned and those identities, you're too fused with the identity, what happens is you have these larger pieces now because all the attention is going
It's going
there.
there. Yeah.
But now you've got these little tiny pieces, or maybe there's a gap in the photo. And so when you complete that picture, things look a little off, it's a little skewed.
Mm,
And that's how I feel burnout is. That's how I feel misalignment looks like
yes.
internally for us. And so it's about, again, recognizing that all these identities, all these pieces make the whole. It's okay to be who you are here, right? And not feeling like you need to step into a performance role and be in that role all the time. It's like what you were sharing about the lady you spoke to, the nurse, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought about that and I'm like, wow. So there's two things that came to mind. One, she may really feel a call to be in that position.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if the calling is there, I think I back up a little bit. Like if you know that calling is there, then it's, hey, be
Right.
great because you
Yes.
are graced for it. You have what you need for it, right? If the calling is not there,
No,
you can't pour from an empty cup.
you cannot.
And so until you pause, get some introspective in there, get some
Yep.
mindfulness in there, reflection, see if some things need to be realigned, because the thing about values is that your values at 23, at 28 look really different than your values at 54, at 62. They may look incredibly different. And that's the
Yes.
thing that we also need to give ourselves compassion for, because maybe we've been on autopilot for
Yeah.
several years, but we haven't taken that inventory or that evaluation to sit back and say, okay, are my values still the same? Now we have that tension. Now we have that burnout coming from the identity or the values misalignment.
And I can see as working women, as working individuals that are grinding on a daily basis, whatever your grind is, that we really should pause about every
Mm-hmm.
6 months,
Mm-hmm.
every 12 months to do a values assessment, because
Absolutely.
things change in our lives personally,
Mm-hmm.
professionally, societally. And when
Mm-hmm.
things change far enough outside of the circle, if you will,
Yes.
that but it still has an impact on who and what we are.
Mm-hmm.
So taking a page out of our current societal situations, the things that are going on in government
Yes.
absolutely are going to impact who we are, how we
Mm-hmm.
perform, how we feel, how we think. Some of the things are very disturbing, especially for healthcare providers, such as both of us,
Absolutely.
as we are concerned with those individuals that we are tasked and pleased to take care of. Now, what does that look like? This time last year, perhaps one's value system was, man, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life and I'm going to be really happy about it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
here we fast forward, regime change,
Mm-hmm.
situations are different. Maybe that's not the same place. Not that our values have changed,
Mm-hmm.
not that our values are misaligned, but there are changes in the society that we didn't ask for,
Right.
but are thrust upon us.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have to determine, what does that look like going forward? How do we continue to live the purpose that we feel that we've been given when the support that we had once upon a time may not be removed completely, but it is fractured?
Mm-hmm.
So, there is a cost with not being in alignment with one's purpose. And these days, I'll admit, some of the things that comes out in the news, it is very distressing.
Yeah.
Those are the types of things that lead to the physical manifestations of burnout. You
Absolutely.
know, headaches, gastric issues, hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your neck is all tense and you can't get away from it. But not just physical symptomatology.
Mm-hmm.
People become very anxious. They are
Mm-hmm.
triggered very easily. And if things don't change, or if they can't find a way clear, then that anxiety can very easily move to depression if they
Mhm.
cannot find their way out, if they cannot find their way clear to reconcile things that may not necessarily be within their control. And that's in the workplace, that's at
Mhm.
home, that's as a result of societal changes. All of those things do have an impact. And that
Mhm.
would be a part of the cost of being misaligned with
Yeah.
our purpose.
I'm so glad you shared that. I actually had that in my notes in terms of just this sort of external stimuli that's coming in, from the
Yes.
government side of things. I think a very important question to ask yourself is what I'm doing sustainable? I think that's a very important question to
Yes.
ask
That is a
because
very important question.
what may have worked for you last year, given your
Hmm.
example,
Hmm.
it may have been fine, but now it might be to your detriment. Early last year, I was fine on the social media front. Like I was posting all the time. The election started coming close. I said, you know what, let me go on and take this back seat and deactivate
Okay,
for a
right,
while
right.
because that's what I needed to do for me at the
Yeah.
time because I know that I was someone who was very aligned with politics. I have a love-hate relationship with political stuff. And so I'm someone who's been very, very well versed in it for
Okay.
years. And
Yeah.
so it's something that I do pay attention to. But I, even in that, and it's something I enjoy, it's kind of I lock into it, right? But I
Hmm.
had to tell myself, like, you know what, this is not the healthiest way to do this. And so it was taking a break. So I don't even take in a lot of media or news at this point. And that's what I needed to do for me. So I think asking yourself, what is sustainable for me right now, given the
Hmm.
context of everything, given the
Yes.
context of some of the changes that some of our clients have been impacted by, given the
Yes.
context of family or whatever things have happened in the family system or outside of
Hmm.
the family system, closely aligned, whether it's what's happening in the workplace, is being in the work, in the environment sustainable anymore for you,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
it's asking what is sustainable. And if it's
Yeah.
not, then what, again, committed action do I need to take aligned to my values? What's going on at all? But there is a way, I believe, that we can maneuver through life with all of its nuance, with all of its
Hmm.
unpredictability, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And still be okay. But it's making sure that we have proper supports in place. It's making sure that the actions that we do take are sustainable, and it matters for us to be able to take this inventory. And I love the 6 month mark. That's something I
Yeah.
also share with my clients. As you were speaking and bringing in sort of this context of the political state that we're in right now, I'm like, maybe it needs to be like 3 months for
I
some.
know
The changes are
it.
happening so fast,
Right.
right?
And it's not that it's so fast, Coach
Mm-hmm.
Rogjett. It's so much. And
True.
so
Yeah.
one can become easily overwhelmed. And
Mm-hmm.
if they do not have what I call a strong constitution, if they are not like
Mm-hmm.
solidly grounded, it can
Mm-hmm.
knock them off their feet.
Yes.
Now, and we're talking about this political climate, but quite frankly, this could have been any point in time. It's just that
Absolutely.
there's so much coming at us,
Mhm,
and that's
mhm.
not a good place to be, especially if there are also other things that are occurring that are creating a misalignment. If the job market, for example, is not conducive to what we're doing,
Mhm.
if we're listening, at the beginning of the year, the federal employees that didn't know what the next day was going to bring,
Yes.
I can
Mhm.
only imagine some of the heartache and heartburn that they were experiencing because all they want to do is serve their country by
Right.
doing a good job every day and being dragged through it. Definitely feel like a reevaluation or a reassessment is something that we should all seek to do to ensure
Mhm.
that we're okay
Mhm.
because a lot is coming at us and a lot of us, quite frankly, are not okay.
That's true. So I think also you heard me mention self-care, and whether I'm on the
Mm-hmm.
therapy side or the coach side, I believe in that. And so whatever that needs to look like, and again,
Yes,
for somebody who's been on autopilot for years, maybe they don't even
that.
know. And so again, to the
Yeah.
earlier point, it's about, okay, let me tap into, even if it's childhood. I actually went through this some years back.
Okay.
I would say in 20, I think it was 21, right in there. I just started thinking, what was it that I loved so much when I was a kid? And I actually started bringing that dynamic into my apartment. So, like, one of the things I loved, and this may sound a little off, but I promise you, I'm going to go somewhere with it. I loved stuffed animals so much, like plush
Okay.
little stuffed
Yeah,
animals,
yeah, yeah.
right? And so I was like, why can't we have stuffed animals as grown folk? Why not?
We
If we love
can.
them, why not?
We can have
Right?
coloring books, so
We
that's
can have
acceptable.
exactly. And so I bought one and I was like, this is nice. And so just the texture part, it just brought me a little bit
Yeah.
of joy. Now, did my dog get to it and tear it up after about a month?
Oh
Absolutely. But
no. Oh
but it was
no.
one of those enjoyable things, for me. It was also, I remember I played instruments when I was younger, so band and that whole thing. So bought an instrument and said, let me go back to what I used to play a little bit,
Oh,
just to kind of change up, because things had become so monotonous. Again, this was 2020, 2021.
yeah.
And so it was, okay, what can I tap into that as a child brought me joy? A lot of us don't remember what that is. When you think about it, those are some of those core things. When you were a child, if you gravitated to, I don't know, speaking into the toilet paper roll, accepting Grammys, right? They're the
Ooh.
pretend, yeah, this childhood dream or love for wanting to perform. Maybe that was something artistically that
Yeah.
you had to sacrifice or give up because you were living someone else's script. And so sometimes it's just about bringing those aspects back into your dynamic in current day as an adult, because why not?
I love that. And I think you hit on something there because I believe that adults may feel like just that. I'm an adult, and what would
Mhm,
I look like?
mhm,
But what's wrong with having something that
mhm,
provides you joy and comfort
mhm,
when other things don't? It's
mhm.
a cold, harsh world out there.
Absolutely.
There is nothing nice about a lot of things that are going on in our society
Mhm,
right now.
mhm,
And I would hope that each one of our listeners here tonight, or those that may watch the replay,
mhm,
recognize that our homes should be a safe haven.
mhm,
And if we can't really count on other people to do for us what we know we need to do for ourselves.
mhm, mhm,
So
mhm,
self-care, it's funny because we were kind of on the same wavelength there.
mhm,
What would self-care, and I want to ask, our listeners, what does self-care look like for you?
mhm, mhm,
If you feel like you need a break, that you may be misaligned, what would self-care look like for you? If someone said, I'm going to give you, the next 2 days to do whatever it is that's going to bring you back to center, to
mhm,
balance us, what would that look like for you? For those individuals that are burnout, self-care could be something as simple as a book, a cup of tea, and a quiet morning. Self-care could be going to the spa and getting a spa treatment, like a massage or a foot rub. Self-care can just be time by yourself
mhm.
to do a values assessment in order to
Exactly.
determine, hey, is this really where I need to be? Do I really need to get up for the next 40 years
Mhm,
doing the
mhm,
thing that I'm doing now that really is not bringing me pleasure right now? Some of the great things about self-care that you mentioned kind of at the top of our call is the lake. I know you like being outside. I do
yes.
too. So being around water, apparently for both of us, is very
Mhm,
calming and soothing.
mhm,
My
mhm.
husband and I belong to a boat club, and so we
Okay.
go out frequently on the water. When we started doing this, he said to me, he's like, "Oh my gosh, I have never seen you more calm and just like,
Mm,
one with nature."
yes.
Nature is a self-care. Even,
Yes.
walking out in the grass with
Mhm,
your bare feet,
mhm,
going through a hike, anything that brings you joy. Starlika says
mhm,
self-care, taking time to sit on my porch in the morning with my coffee,
mhm.
uninterrupted time.
Yes, love that.
Yes. And so we need to be able to provide to ourselves, to our
Mhm,
clients, to our circles, to our employers, that we do need self-care. And,
yeah,
kind of taking it back to the employers, they don't want to hear about that. They
that's right.
just want to know productivity. I need you to move. You need to produce this many widgets. You need to take care of this
Mhm,
many patients. You need to take this many phone calls. But at the end of the day, we need to recognize that it is okay not to be okay.
And to
It
your
is
point,
okay not to be okay, and to be
mm-hmm,
able to find what will help to bring us back to center.
yes. And to your point of this sort of productivity and what that bottom line, that is so expected in the work environment, how much more do you need to
Yeah,
prioritize self-care?
true.
It's the reason, right, that it should be a non-negotiable. And so I challenge all of my clients to actually put self-care on their calendar, like actually on their calendar, to carve
Yes.
out time, because a lot of us were very accountable to our calendars,
Yes.
and we know,
Yes.
like, okay, as long as it's on this schedule, I'm going to produce
I'm
and
gonna
I'm
get
going
it
to get it
done.
out.
Right.
But a lot of times what I've seen is that self-care is usually something a lot of my clients will have, in the back of their mind. They're thinking, oh, I might go to the movies. I'll think about it. It's just sort of this passing thought.
Yes.
Whereas if we prioritized it with the rest of
Yes.
the schedule, then what's going to happen as we engage in it, and just the way our brains are wired, the more we do it, the more it's going to begin to become the reflex, where
Yeah.
you're not having to think about it anymore.
It's just a natural part of what you do.
Yes, which then provides that balance that you need so
Yeah.
that you're not constantly, again, on 10 all the time. We were
All the
not
time.
created to be in this hypervigilant state 100% of the time.
I can definitely say I understand now really what that means and what it feels like, because some of the things that were bothersome to me, I don't know, 10
Mhm.
years ago, I'm not buying into it. My peace of mind is very important to me.
Mhm.
And, as consumers and as workers in whatever industry you work in, we all have full plates as
Yeah.
people. The wife, the mother, the daughter, the best friend, the employee, we all have full plates.
Mhm.
And when our plate becomes overfull, what we tend to do is we tend to knock off the things that we really shouldn't, like
Mm.
taking time to go to the movies, taking time away from the crazy that's going on in our lives, or to sit
Mhm.
on the porch, or to stop and smell the roses. What we
Mhm.
should do is learn to prioritize the things that we have to do and cluster them for a couple of hours at a time, and then take a break. What the
Mhm.
smokers that work in your environment, they take their 15-minute breaks
That's
every
true.
so often because they will
Mhm.
not be without that cigarette. But
Right.
the people that don't smoke, I happen to be one of those, we don't take those
Mhm.
15-minute
Mhm.
breaks. We're like, oh, I'm just going to push through. Or we sit at our
Mhm.
desks and we have our lunch. That's the very time that we can step away in the middle of the day when things are at their worst sometimes, and
Mhm.
we can take advantage of having a personal moment by ourselves, for ourselves, so that we can retain the peace of mind that we know is so invaluable.
Mhm.
Yes.
I love
Yes.
that. I have a question for you, and it's one. It comes up quite a bit in some
Okay.
of my sessions. How do you deal with the folks who are under your leadership in terms of them feeling guilty for taking that break, for taking that pause? Because I see that
Oh,
a lot where people feel
yeah.
like I feel bad, I feel sad if
Yeah.
I do that.
Yeah.
It's a thing. And in these helping fields, it seems to be magnified a bit more even.
Yeah, I am a very big proponent for letting my faculty know that we have to have work-life balance. That family is number one. This is a
Mm-hmm.
job. This is not your
Right.
family. And
Mm-hmm.
that if you can't take care of you, then you are not going to be able to take care of all these other people that we are tasking you to take care of on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very important to me to convey that message to them,
That's
and
great.
I have been thanked for that because of the vision that I have, that everyone is important, that their peace of mind is priceless. You remember the commercials, this is priceless. That's peace of mind
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
priceless. If we don't put a value on it, no one else will. Okay, parting thought. What's a closing thought that you would like to leave with our viewers this evening and those that will watch the replay as we continue to dialogue on connecting burnout and resilience with identity misalignment?
I've said it a couple of times already. And I still just, I want to stand on business, as these young folks say, with
Mm-hmm.
regard to this phrase. And it really is just pause. I want everybody to just pause, spend some time, be reflective, be introspective, write some things down. Because again, I think it's one thing when we're just thinking about it, but it's another thing when we put pen to paper and we can actually see, okay, yeah, this is all the stuff I've got going on, and take a cost benefit analysis.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do that values assessment frequently throughout the year. We're not talking about every week, but like every 6 months, because things do change. Life changes. Stop and smell the roses. Write down what the most important, like you said, who and what, if I remember correctly, who is
Yep.
the most important person to you
Mm-hmm.
and what is the most important thing to you? Because the answers to those questions should drive us to move forward or
Mm-hmm.
not.
Right.
Always be in alignment with the things that bring us joy. Who's most important, what's most important, and what brings us joy.
Yeah.
So I would like for our viewers this evening in the chat, comment, even after this live is done, fill those things in. Answer us back and let us know who's most important, what's most
Mm-hmm.
important, and what brings you joy in your life. That will exactly take us to where we need to be.
That's right.
Evaluate the cost. Evaluate the cost. Are we in alignment with the people, the places, the things?
Listen, that's a whole nother episode, right?
That's a whole nother episode. All right.
Absolutely.
We may have to have a redo.
I'm here for
Yes,
that, for sure.
I
Mm-hmm.
am. You know what? I want to say thank you to Coach Rogjett. I
Thank
think
you.
this has been a very inspiring discussion this evening. I want to say thank you to our listeners. Yes, your values, your voice, and your vision must be aligned. And if
Mm-hmm.
we're not
Mm-hmm.
in alignment, we need to do whatever it is that we can to move closer to that, because in that, I think we will find joy.
Yes. Yes.
I
Thank you
want to
so
say
much.
thanks again. Thank you so much, Coach Rogjett. I look
Thank
forward
you,
to the
Coach
next
Tonya.
duel.
Likewise.
All righty. You
All
guys have a
right.
pleasant rest of your Monday night. Hey, look, if you are interested in our respective workshops, I know Coach Rogjett, when is your next workshop?
My next one is on the 31st, which is actually a Thursday. They're usually on Sundays when I do have them, but I'm changing up in a
Okay.
couple of weeks. So it'll be Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You can find me at Rogjett Speaks, website go.rogettespeaks.com to register. I would love for you guys to show up that Thursday and we can get into some more of these identity avatars, as I call them. And actually, I've created sort of my own values assessment, a more modern take on some of the ones that I've had the opportunity to facilitate and also
Sure.
be on, receiving side of them. So I
Yes.
have modified some current, more modern. So I would love for you guys to have an opportunity to engage in that as well.
Well, great. Well, my workshop on From Burnout to Brilliance, how to recognize, overcome, and manage burnout will be Sunday, July 27th, which I believe is this upcoming Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern
Mhm.
Standard Time. And, it is very important to have the tools that are required in order to help us to make vital changes in our lives. And so I know in both
Mhm.
of our workshops, we will provide tools that our listeners can take home and other offers that will help them to recognize who they are authentically and
Yes.
how to continue along those lines. So thanks so much, everyone. We greatly
Yes.
appreciate it. And I'm at Coach Tonya C, at Coach_Tonya C on Instagram, and Small Victories Coaching and Wellness on Facebook.